Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight. This is the show where I put the spotlight on a new album that's come out in prog or a related genre and basically just give you a description of the album to see if it's something you'd be interested in. These are all albums that I really love and that if your tastes line up with mine, I can't recommend strongly enough. You know, these are really great albums that have come out that show that prog and great rock music is not dead. It's still alive and kicking out there. And that's really one of the main drives of this show for me, is to recommend new music to you all, to those that loved prog, that loved that classic 70s sound, but felt like modern music went away from that style and is not as interesting anymore. Well, if you dig deep enough, you can find music just as interesting as the classics of the 70s, at least in my estimation. And we've got one that sounds like it could have been plucked straight from the 70s and early 80s. This is Crown Lands and their album Fearless. Crown Lands is a band that formed in 2015. They're from Canada. It's basically just a duo, Cody Bowles on vocals and drums, and then Kevin Comiau on guitar, bass, and keyboard. Really an incredible duo that are just really technically proficient. And the big elephant in the room is they definitely play a very Rush-inspired sound. In fact, when listening to this album, there's moments where you almost feel like it just is classic Rush. You know, it sounds like this album could have been plucked straight from that Hemisphere's Farewell to Kings era of Rush, and some people don't like that. Some people think they're kind of a copycat band and they're not original enough and they're leaning too heavy into their influences. It's a critique that's often leveled at Greta Van Fleet as well, who lean really heavy into this more Led Zeppelin classic rock style sound. But to me, I'm not as bothered with it. It doesn't really bother me. I'm more just looking for good quality music, if it's well written, if it's well played, if it's in the style that I enjoy and I just have a fun time listening to it. Those are really the main criteria for me. And to me, it's not like a total copycat. I feel like they insert some of their own style and sound, especially in some of the later tracks on the record. And I think it's just a great celebration of classic music. And I don't see why anyone would not be excited for that. If you're really into the classic bands and the classic sound and you're kind of disappointed that modern music has went away from that style and has embraced different kinds of things that aren't really the traditional rock elements that you grew up loving, to me it's really exciting to see young bands bring about this new sound and to really bring knowledge about those bands to the younger audience. I think is only good for the musical landscape and may inspire other young artists to embrace rock and roll and to embrace prog and all of these classic rock type tropes. I think that's good stuff. And so for me, I'm really excited about it, and I think it's a really fun album to listen through, even if it does lean heavy on those influences that I mentioned. There's definitely a Rush sound to them. There's even little tinges of Led Zeppelin in their sound as well, but I just really enjoy what they're doing, and I think they're just really great at their instruments, great at telling stories throughout the album, and just craft really excellent, catchy, fun rock music. The first track on the album is Starlifter Fearless Part 2, an 18-minute epic, which definitely feels like the love child of Rush's 2112 and Cygnus. Just all those classic epic length proggy Rush tracks all swirled into one really fascinating piece of music that really leans into that sound with an exciting overture that's very classic Rush inspired, some great keyboard textures and guitar and drums. There's a section 7 minutes in that gives rise to some flutes and chimes before the bass line kind of chugs back into this Rush-inspired, energetic sound. Love the riffs, love the pounding drums throughout, love this more 80s sci-fi feel that is in part in this sound. There's this section with this arpeggiated synth that almost sounds like it come out of like an 80s sci-fi movie. It's just really cool stuff with really fantasy, sci-fi inspired lyrics, just like Rush did in their proggy heyday. The singer, Cody, his voice just sounds so much like Geddy Lee. It's like a marriage between Geddy Lee and Robert Plant, and it's just so commanding and such a great presence to it. I really find it fascinating. It's just a really fun listen through. If this doesn't grab you, this opening 18-minute track, then it's probably not a band for you, because to me this is like the highlight of the album and really an exciting start. But we still get some really great tracks afterwards, some shorter rockers with Dreamer of the Dawn, The Shadow, and Right Way Back. I feel like these are just really fun, solid rock songs, really leaning into that classic rock sound and some of the brighter Rush tracks. I really like that. Context Fearless Part 1 is a really cool track, which I guess provides some context to the Fearless Part 2 epic, but it's a really atmospheric build before the band comes in with a bit of a proggier sound, a great Rush feeling, an anthemic stadium rock feel, a wider musical palette than some of the shorter rockers that came before it, some technical proficiency, and some great drum and bass work. Just a really cool track that really showcases the band's talents. Reflections opens a bit like Xanadu with some ambient soundscapes and dreamy guitars, twinkling chimes before the guitar takes center stage to another Rush-inspired track. Really cool, inventive guitar solo towards the end. Just really cool. And then they go into a different lane a little bit with Penny, which is just a sensational acoustic guitar piece that really is a great palate cleanser after all these heavier, higher octane rocking tracks. Some really cool chill vibes there, leading into Lady of the Lake, which has a bit of a Zeppelin-y, folky vibe with an acoustic style guitar start before those harder rock elements come in for a bit of a powerhouse of a rocker song. Really catchy rock anthemic chorus. Just a really fun track that's enjoyable and fun. And then we finish off with Citadel, which has a beautiful piano melody at the top and turns into a bit of a power ballad style with piano and vocals and an epic slow drum beat behind it. Great melodies, impassioned vocals, an impressive climax, a strong ending to the album. The piano figure, especially at the beginning, does sound a bit like Marillion's Nevermind. Sounds a bit like Marillion's Neverland. Really a cool sound, and I'm sure it was probably an unintentional connection, but it sounds really similar to that melody from Neverland. So that's a really cool little Easter egg there. So all in all, just a really cool, fun, enjoyable album. Sure, it leans heavy into its Rush influence, and I'm sure a lot of people will probably dismiss it for that because it's like, well, if I wanted to listen to Rush inspired music, I'd just listen to Rush, but I think they're a fun group that brings a bit of a fresh energy and some vibrancy and adds a little bit of flavor of their own into this mix. And it's just impressive what they can do as a duo, that they're able to do all of these instrumentation and expansive sound palette with just two guys. And it seems like they actually pull this off live as a duo with, drummer and singer on one side and then guitarist, bassist, keyboardist on the other, kind of filling in all that sound and space. So really cool band, showcases a leap forward for them, I think, and just a really exciting, fun time. And if you like good, fun, solid rock music with some progressive rock leanings, then this is a fun recommendation, and I hope you guys will check it out. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this review, and please let me know in the comments how you feel. Even if you're kind of negative on it, I welcome all opinions and commentary, just as long as it's respectful. That's all that I care about. I don't want to disrespect the band and the work that they're putting into their music, but if it's not to your taste, that's fair to say, and it's fair to have certain criticisms. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you'll stick around and enjoy other shows in the future, and just for now, enjoy the music, everybody. Bye, everybody. Thank you.